Welcome to our very first podcast. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Tapas.
And I'm Kalena, and you are listening and watching to us at Eat.Lead.Sleep, where our aim is to be mindful, be fulfilled, and to be a leader in your life. So that's not just being a leader at work, but just all around in your personal life altogether.
And just kind of a background about what this podcast will look like. We definitely want to do a once a month, do like a what we're calling the real talk segment, where we're going to kind of discuss some of the things that we want to talk about regarding work. So some of the more realistic stuff we see at our day-to-day lives. And then also once a month, we want to do a book review. But this is more of a Cliff Notes version. We just want to kind of discuss some of the books that we've either read in the past or we are interested in reading in the future, and just kind of talk about what our takeaways are, and also kind of summarize a little bit for you guys as far as what those books entail. So it should be a lot of fun, very entertaining.
I agree. So let's get to leading. So before we do that, I think you guys would like to know a little bit about us. So Tapas, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about your life?
Of course. So day to day, I am a district manager for a major corporation. I lead a team of almost 250 colleagues.
Big boss.
So a lot of locations, a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. I've been doing this for the last 3 years. I actually was working for Kalena at one point, and then I got promoted to my position. So she's been my mentor ever since. But nonetheless, a lot of moving parts, and I think this has been something that I've cherished a lot. I think it's a very good opportunity, but definitely have run into a lot of challenges along the way in the last 3 years. So definitely looking to share with you guys what the challenges are, and of course discussing more things in detail. Kalena, how about you?
Well, before you move on to me, tell us about your personal life.
Oh yeah, so married for 5 years. I have a daughter that's 4. They both are my heart and soul, and just trying to change my personal life a little bit too. Just trying to grow as a person. I've been reading a lot of books. Love working out. I feel like this is one of those awkward interviews that you're doing.
Okay, well,
But
we can turn it over to me, except for I'm pretty much the female Asian replica of you. Obviously, same job. Tapas was actually too good to work for me. He had to branch off and start off on his own. So we definitely see the same complexities with running the logistics and compliance of managing and leading and supporting over 200 direct reports to us, and dealing with all of the corporate fire drills and whatnot. So if you can relate to that, then definitely this podcast is something for you to listen and to watch too. Personally, I have 2 kids. I also have a 4-year-old like Tapas. Our kids are 6 months apart, and they're both little scientist geniuses. They're really fun. And I also have a 20-month-old girl. So first one's a boy, second one's a girl, and married, of course. And I'm out here in Long Beach, California, where the weather's always really great. And COVID's been really different and challenging for us this year, but I actually have had a great time with my family. We try to go out and be as active as we can, going to the beach. We just went to the snow yesterday. So just having as much physical activity and fun with my family as possible.
yep.
Yep. So with that being said, as fun as it is, it's actually also really tough, right? Real talk, life isn't a rainbow all the time, and it is challenging, especially when you have to balance work and you have to balance your kids and your family. So it definitely, these days, as we just wrapped up 2020, Happy New
Can't
Year,
believe
by the
it.
way. Yeah,
Happy New Year.
we should toast to that. Happy New Year's, buddy.
Good
We
year.
definitely had a long and tough year, but it's done with, and so I can't tell you how
Yeah.
excited I am about 2021. So yeah, life has been very tough to balance over the past 12 months for sure. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, it's, I think more so this year than the past. COVID-19 definitely has affected. I mean, not just for me as a leader, but I think just me, even in my personal matters, right? I think it's definitely challenged us a lot. We had to change how we're looking day to day life. It went from looking out 5 years out to looking out 5 minutes out, I think, for me, honestly. So definitely has been a struggle, but I think now that we're slowly coming towards the end of it, fingers crossed, um, there's like a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like, to be very honest with you, but it's been amazing ride. I cannot be proud of my team. My team has done so much, and I think that just kind of lays back to what we do as leaders.
Yeah. And I think that the challenging part of that is how do you manage all of it, right? How do you manage the work? How do you manage the home life? How do you have that balance, right?
So work-life balance, that has been a struggle for me personally. What I kind of think of work life when I think of work life balance, I think of trying to balance or trying to shut off work at a certain time of the day, and then
Yep.
trying to address family certain time of the day. And I think, especially because of COVID, it definitely got magnified a little bit. And I think for me, I struggle with it a lot because with work, I don't know when to shut off, and I feel like if I shut off work, then I am neglecting my family or neglecting my personal life, and then vice versa. So I'm also if I'm spending a whole weekend just with my family, I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna walk into Monday morning with so much work, and that's just lingering in my head. So I've tried so many different things to address work-life balance. I can't say I've ever find a really good way of looking at it, but Kalina, you actually came across something, right?
I have, and I was going to say, as you're saying, I haven't been able to find work life balance. I feel like so many people say that. I hear it all the time, and you hear that like I just can't win. Like no matter what I do, I'm wearing 20 hats. And just a little bit of background for our listeners and our watchers today. Our jobs, Tapas and I, are salary, and we work through a lot of corporate orders, and it's always around the clock fire drills and running it. It's great work. I mean, I love my company. I love what I do, but sometimes it gets exhausting and tiring. So, like you were saying, Tapas, like how do you find time for work and then your family? And I think the key part is how do you do it and not feel guilty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're with your family, you feel guilty that you're not, that your work is piling up, you're not doing what you're supposed to. And then on the other side, if you're working, you're at home, right? So you're working remotely, you know your kids at home, you know your wife's at home, and you can't necessarily give them the attention that you want to. So I think that's a common theme with a lot of working people that are working remotely this year. And the one thing that I really wanted to share, and I sent you this link recently, Tapas,
Mm-hmm.
was a TED Talk video called The Fallacy of Work Life Balance. And it's by Michael Walters. He is the head HR of Samsung. And he talks about this concept of there is no such thing as work life balance. And that was just eye opening for me, right? What I thought was really cool is you the concept of this video is people try to say I'm going to separate my work, I'm going to separate my home life, my personal life, and when I can find that balance, that means I'm good. But like I said earlier, right, T, you can't ever be good because you're always feeling guilty. You're never
Mm-hmm.
100% of everything. And so by saying that there is no work life balance and almost saying that it has to be infused because we are one person. You're a one holistic person. Work is a part of you, family is a part of you. So you can't separate the two. And by separating it, you're always going to have this pull from both sides. So just that idea of being okay with doing one thing because you can't always do everything at once, saying to yourself it's okay that I'm doing on working on work right now, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay that I'm spending time with family right now. That gives you the momentum that you need to just move forward and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
What did you take
And
away from this?
yeah, I think he did a really good job of kind of tying it all together. He talked a lot about the holistic aspect of it. I think this is something that, when I saw it and when I heard it, I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So one thing I always try to do was I had a work tapas and then a home tapas.
Mm,
And the
yes.
work tapas was very like, I gotta talk to my team. I gotta be very energetic, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And then when I'm at home, I'm just quiet. I'm very much like, so even those personalities would change, but I think when you look at the holistic aspect, it's just got to be one kind of Tapas with one personality.
Exactly.
And he did this demonstration about like, he has a ball of, he has a whole glass of balls, and he's like, what do I take out first? What do I prioritize? And talk about like, do I neglect my family? No. Do I neglect my children? No. Do I neglect work? And essentially, what kind of resonated with me there was you look at work as a negative aspect, because you're like, this is what's taking my time away from my family. But if you actually don't put it, if you put it into the same bucket and you don't make it this evil thing, you actually start to appreciate like, okay, this is part of what I have to do. This is all the stuff that I need to think about on a day-to-day basis and put it part of my routine versus just saying, okay, it's time for work. I gotta just ignore my family. And that completely like resonated with me a lot. I think that was within the first, I think, half, maybe 7 minutes of the video. Not too long. I'll link it down below for you guys to watch it as well. But it's a different concept, I would say. Trying to just say they do not have work-life balance. There is no balance. It's just one person.
Yep, I
Right?
agree. And the video is only 10 minutes long, so if you guys do have
Yep.
a chance to watch it, I definitely highly recommend it. The visual that you're talking about, Tapas, was also very eye-opening for me. And so essentially what he did was, instead of saying, I'm going to take out these balls, I'm going to take out and prioritize family or life or whatever, you actually can't take it out. It's all just a part of you, and you just kind of rotate with it, and it's all just interconnected to each other. So that interconnection was one of the aha moments for me, because it
Mm-hmm.
was, if you are good at your work, right? If you're happy at your work, it's interconnected in your body because you're a holistic person, you're a one. That happiness will also translate and infuse into your work, your home life, right? And vice versa. If you're happy at home, that should translate and infuse into your work life, and or whatever life you have. You have social life or family life or whatnot, right? They're all connected. So that was great for me. And then the last thing that I really took away from it is that momentum, right? Like, you
Mm-hmm.
just, sometimes it just feels crappy, right? Let's face it. Some days we get up and we're just like, oh my gosh, like, do I have to go to work today, or do I have to listen to the kids scream again today? Like, it's just tough. But what he talks about is just take it one thing at a time. Just get up out of bed, walk to the door, take that one next step, and just keep going and going and create that momentum for you. And whether or not it's work or family, it doesn't matter. You do one,
Mm-hmm.
and then it will roll into the other. And that was just really, really great for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that part a lot because, yeah, you roll out of bed. First thing you do is, do you decide to make your bed or you don't? Right. If you make your bed, you're like, okay, what's the next productive thing I can do? And you just kind of add in things. And if you just say, okay, I'm gonna work on emails for an hour, I'm gonna knock it out, I'm gonna do all my emails, versus, I'll get to these emails later on. I'll do it in a couple hours, and you're not gonna do it, and you're gonna push it off, and that's when you kind of start adding. But if you just take your time and just build that momentum, do one thing at a time, continue to build it, build it, build it, you're eventually gonna feel like you've been caught up. And it could mean that maybe there's you take 15 minutes to play with your children. Okay, I did it. I didn't push it off because I'm not gonna, because of work. I took care. I played with my daughter for 15 minutes. It felt great. She feels happy, and I feel happy, and I'm gonna go back to work.
Yep.
And I think it's just adding it all together, super super important. I think that's one thing I definitely want to take away a lot is the momentum aspect. Is just incorporate it. I think, and I haven't been doing that, to be very honest. And I think
Of
that's something
course, it's
I need to
hard.
start.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. And I love that picture you just painted where you work and then you spend 15 minutes playing with your daughter and then you go back to work, right? That's something that
Yep.
is so hard for us to grasp, especially for me, because it's, I feel like I have to do my clock in of 9 to 5, and then I can spend time with my family, right? Because I'm separating the two. But if I don't
Mm-hmm.
do that now, I'll take the breaks that I need to. So one thing that I've done differently is really calendar in times throughout the day for myself to have breaks, and whether it's just to spend time by myself or to even have lunch or just to
Mm-hmm.
play with my kids for 15 minutes, like, that makes such a big difference, and I can go back to work and actually be so much more productive than if I had just cranked it out in a full 8 hour stretch. So the momentum is really great, and it also leads to something that 4 concepts that he talks about. Do you want to share that? Because I think you came up with the acronym for it, and I thought that was genius.
Yeah, it's called the game, right?
Game.
GAME. So grace, awareness, momentum, and empowerment are the kind of four concepts you talked about a little bit. Grace being just just knowing, just think of the comprehensive aspect of it. Don't be hypercritical of every single task. Essentially, just everything is all inclusive. It's holistic, right? Grace yourself with that. Awareness is the same thing. Essentially, just kind of saying, hey, there are things that need to be done. I am aware of what I need to do, what my responsibilities are as a person, and just continuing to add that into your routines. And don't, again, for me, it was don't separate the work tapas, and be aware that I'm just a one person, and a part of my job is to be a father, to be a husband, and also to be a colleague for a company, right? And then momentum we just kind of talked about right now, essentially just adding one more thing one by one, and then empowerment is just to continue to build on that as you go along. What were your thoughts on that, on the game?
I love it. All of that. I mean, when you have the momentum, you're able to build up to the game, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes total sense. I have a friend that says to me all the time, start slow, right? And
Yep.
to me, it's literally just take that next step. Just the next step. Don't think about the rest of the day. Don't think about all the 10 million things you have to do. Just think about the next thing you have to do and go with it, right? And then as you were talking about, I heard you say a couple of times the work tapas and then
Mm-hmm.
your personal personality, right? Um, it makes me think about how a lot of us feel like we are expected to be a certain way at work, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to put on this different front. We have to be professional, or we just have to be a different type of person altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know that that's actually the right way to look at it, right? Like, we should really
No.
be proud of who we are. Obviously, be professional, of course. Like, you can't just, act like you would on a Friday night when you're at work, but you
Yeah.
also shouldn't be a completely different person. And I think that's
Right.
where that difference is. We go into this hole where we're not necessarily happy because we're not who we truly are. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, that intertwining, that interconnection of like work and life, like it has to be one. If you can figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to really infuse the two, be really proud of who you are, and just taking it slow, one step at a time, everything just kind of falls into place. And you won't necessarily be looking for work life balance. You'll have work
Mm-hmm.
life infusion as one, and it's something that you can be really proud of.
Well, I like that work life infusion.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. So I can tell you guys I've been practicing this for probably about 6 months
Mm-hmm.
or so, and definitely still a work in progress. But when I catch myself in a very almost against red tape or a wall where I just start feeling overwhelmed or stressed out or just guilty or pressured, I take that moment and I think about the game, and it really is a good reset for me, and definitely something that I put down on paper to calendarize and make sure that I actually follow these steps, and it's been working.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess before 6 months, what was your usual work life balance look like versus now?
Um, Gosh, I don't know that I would call it balance. And I'm very guilty to say that it was much more so heavily leaning towards work and not as much towards family or myself at all. I
Mm-hmm.
neglected my own personal needs. And I think when I said this is too much, I had to let go and say I had to prioritize myself first and foremost. Once I was happy with me and who I was, once I said I'm going to sit down and read a book just because I want to, or I'm going to wake up a little early to exercise, or just sit and have a cup of coffee just for me, that small step started to transition and trickle into everything else. Like, once I found myself happy personally, I was able to be much more happy with my family, much more, and then that went into my work life. And now I'm so happy at work. I think it's because it's allowed me to see the big picture and not get stuck in the nitty gritty and the dark details.
Yeah, I think it's definitely inspired me a lot. And I know we're going in 2021, and I don't believe in resolutions and stuff like that, but I do want to start doing this. And I think I wouldn't say I'm unhappy with work. I'm unhappy with at home, but I think it definitely could use a change, and I definitely need to address it a little bit more, right? I think I've been putting it off a lot, so I'm definitely ready for this. I starting Monday, I just want to start kind of thinking of this aspect. Maybe not even the Monday, maybe start now,
Yeah,
right? What's the
right
point of
now.
waiting
Start
until
slow, buddy.
yeah, start slow. I think that's a big thing, right? So I have to make sure I remind myself that I can't just switch on a switch essentially, and just start being this person that's not gonna that's trying to separate work life balance, right? Essentially, it's gonna take me a long time to get there, but I need to be patient with that prospect, right? So for you, one of the questions I had was, you started pretty much right in the middle of COVID, right?
Yep.
So this is when everything's going on, and I think our stores and everything was kind of on fire because our stores were also open and helping out patients. How did you incorporate that with COVID? Like, I think I would have struggled doing that initially, trying to balance or the work life infusion. How did you kind of address it?
That's a great question. I think it's actually easier through COVID because of working from home, because of, everyone's just remote, your family's home, everyone's home. You kind of have more an opportunity to kind of practice that, right? Like it's easier for me to say I'm going to step away for 10 minutes just to play with George for a little bit. So the opportunity is there. And then also because of COVID, I got to understand what's really important, right? At the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, what's important? Is it humanity and what's going on in the world, or is it that I missed a deadline, or that I have to send this report, or that I have complaints I need to deal with, right? Like those are all usually really magnified previous to COVID. All of those little details were so important, but now it's like, is
Mm-hmm.
it really? Like, yes, it's there, but the big picture is there are people out there dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are family members who can't see each other, and there are people that are struggling. So take a step back and look at what's really important, and adjust how you approach things, because I was lost, to be honest with you, and that's why I had to find a different approach to get out of it, because I was lost, and every day it just seemed really dark, and I felt like I wasn't getting anything accomplished and achieved. Like I was wearing 20 different hats at one time, and I didn't know where my head was. So now, knowing and understanding that it's okay that I have only one hat, because I am only one person and I can only do what I can at one time, and everything else I will get to when I can. That feels so much better, and you can see
Mm-hmm.
it in my work and in my interactions.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of what just kind of when I was listening to you talk, I was kind of reflecting about like what I why I think this concept is definitely very beneficial. So, we're salary. So in the past, I would say, okay, weekends are my time. I'm not gonna work. And if I get bothered by a work call, I'm like, oh God, I hate this. Like, why are they calling me, or whatever it might be, right? But I think with everything going on, like you said, the humanity of our job, which is, I guess that's what I try to pride myself on. I'm very much like a caring person for my team. The last few weeks, I've just been like, you know what? If I get a call for work, it's important because my team's not gonna call me on the weekend, and it's not going to bother me because this is a part of my weekend now. Is that I will be available to my
Yes,
team for
yes.
work, and whether it be like, oh, I have somebody in my family that has COVID. What do I do? In the past, I probably would have been like, well, just there's a protocol, read it. Um, but now I'm just like, no, I'm gonna pick up the phone. I've already talked to my wife. I'm like, hey, if I need to be called in, or if I need to go help my team out, I'm gonna do it because this is a part of what I need to do. And it's been very seamless. I don't feel like my work has taken away from my personal time, and I also don't feel bad for ignoring a work call,
Yeah.
because of because I'm spending time with my family. So I think like just getting that, even just a small infusion of it over the last few weekends, I've been like, okay, I can see where this is gonna help me because I've already started to do it, not to the same extent when in my weekdays. The stuff is not the same, but I can see where this can definitely work.
Yeah, and that's part of that grace, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just very, very cool. And think about it. If they're calling you, it's because they trust you and they want
Yep.
your help, right? I think we get jaded by being bothered or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but the alternative, the worst part is them saying, I'm not going to reach out to Tapas. I'm not going to call him
Yeah.
because he's not going to help me, right? Like,
Right.
we want our teams to know that we truly care, and
Hmm.
I think what you're doing is a very, very cool approach. And don't say that it's not as to the extent that I've been doing. Just because I've been practicing it much longer doesn't mean that I'm at all advanced or way far in this. I definitely do need help.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, so I guess we can kind of end this topic a little bit, just maybe with our key takeaways, right? What do we want to leave our listeners with? First and foremost, from me, I'll start is definitely watch the video. So again, I'll link everything down for you guys in the description. But watch the video. Just give it an honest listen. I would say it's nothing where you have to sit down for an hour, listen to whatever. It's a 10-minute video. It's very, very quick. But it definitely has changed my mindset a lot. I mean, I'm walking into the new year and I'm already feeling like I feel a lot more comfortable with where I'm at just by listening to that video. And usually I'm not very, how do you say, like a cheesy person that gets inspired so quickly. But I knew work-life balance is something I had to address, and I had to change my approach. And this is a very innovative way of thinking about it. Instead of trying to find a balance, just infuse it,
I
make it into
agree.
one whole
I
thing,
agree.
right?
Work life infusion. So, I mean, for me, I think just like what you said, remember that you are just one person,
Mm-hmm.
and it is okay to just do one thing at a time. Have grace. Just take it slow and allow your life to just kind of take over and do what makes you happy, right? Take the
Mm-hmm.
time to take care of yourself, to spend time with your family and your work, and everything will just kind of fall into place.
Yep.
Cool.
I agree.
So, to help our listeners kind of practice this, Tapas and I have read and listened to another book called The Atomic Habits. And the author is James Clear, right?
James Clear. Yep.
Yes, and Tapas actually introduced me to this book, and I read it, and I actually loved it so much. I recommend it to my entire team. I asked everyone to read it, and it's really great. We're gonna go over it in 2 weeks, but
Mm-hmm.
just sharing in case you guys want to pick up the book or do the audio listen. It's not too long. Do you remember how long it was? A couple
I think
hours.
it's about 5 hours if you do
Okay.
the Audible
Yep.
version.
So if
Yeah.
you're driving around town or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot, it's a good read and it actually breaks down little habits and routines and things that you can do. What is it? Just 1% difference compounds and adds
Yep.
up to a really big impact. So I really like that. I think it's really going to tie into our work life infusion and how we can. Get things done and still be on routine and be productive with all of the tips from Atomic Habits.
Yeah. So it's gonna be again, it's a very good listen, or if you're a reader, by all means, it's a very good book to pick up on Kindle or even the hard book on Target, wherever you guys want to get it from. But great book. Excited for the topic. I think I must have listened to it at least 3 times now, to be honest. And every time I pick up new things, I'm like, okay, I'll try that, kind of thing. So it'll be a very, very fun discussion. Again, we'll kind of do a Cliff Notes version of it, but definitely tune in 2 weeks from now to kind of go over that too. But
Yep. So
okay,
if you don't have the 5 hours, join us in 2 weeks. We'll sum it up for you in 20 to
yep.
30 minutes, and then you'll be good. All right, you
All
guys,
right.
let's get leading.
Thanks, guys. Bye.